Okay, this is no pressure. I'm just gonna do this for fun. I was looking into current events and the astrological happenings that are happening in the sky right now. And some of the synchronicities, I'm just gonna do a synchronistic dive and see what comes up to try to make sense of a world that doesn't seem to make any sense right now. So I'm going to include the current astrology, do a little tarot-y thing, look at some excerpts, just different thoughts. We'll get into it. So today, the 24th of June 2025, if you can even believe it, we have the sun conjunct Jupiter. So the sun, day to day, moves by degree in the zodiac, and today it is conjunct the jovial planet of Jupiter, which is very expansive, philosophical, spiritual, jovial. It kind of just expands anything it touches. And it's in the sign of Cancer. And currently, today, at the 3rd degree of Cancer, which, by the way, it's exactly on top of my natal moon. So whatever that means. Anyway, so Cancer, for those who don't know, is archetypally embodies the archetype of the mother, the caretaker. It embodies emotion. It is ruled by the moon, or it rules the moon. It's associated with the moon. And so it's deeply associated with emotion. It's a water sign. It's deeply emotional. And is symbolized by the crab. So we have Jupiter transiting through the sign for the next year and a half, more than maybe almost 2 years. I don't remember the exact time it takes to travel through, but it's gonna be a minute. We're in this for a minute. That Jupiter goes through and expands. You could consider Jupiter expanding our emotional worlds collectively, and that's all very different for each of us. That'll look very different, especially depending on which house Cancer falls in your chart. If you know anything about that, it'll affect different areas of your life, but ultimately it'll affect us emotionally, collectively. This is an expansion of feeling, which honestly is something I think we could use more of right now. So here we are today. The sun has come around the zodiac to meet up with Jupiter this year, exactly on top of Jupiter at 3 degrees Cancer. And quick little overview of the Sabian symbols. I don't know much about them. I know that they're like the symbolic thing for each degree of the zodiac that somebody drew up. Something drew up in the 1900s. I'll get into it later. But I wanted to go over the symbolism that those talk about. I like to look them up because I feel like anything anyone imagines at any point in the fractal of time and space can come back and meet itself in another way, and kind of help paint a picture and a story. And I was just looking at the symbolism today, and with what's happening with this transit and tomorrow's new moon, bam, the sun comes in conjunct with Jupiter, and then bam, new moon, fresh starts in emotions for the next 6 months with this new moon. So yeah, let's get into it. 3 degrees of Cancer is where this transit today with Jupiter is happening. We round up with the Sabian symbols, and for Cancer 4, the symbol for Cancer 4 is a cat arguing with a mouse, which feels pretty relevant. Anyone who knows anything about what's happening in the world right now, which, like, who doesn't? If you don't, I don't know what you're doing with your life. One nation starts with an I, preemptively attacks another nation. That's not a thing, by the way. It first attacked another nation that starts with an I. And then they've kind of gone back and forth, kind of like a cat and a mouse, right? And then the U.S. gets involved. Everybody knows about that, and everyone's fearing about that. And now there's this talk of a ceasefire. Well, there's still this big debate about whether or not this is going to last. It's very much cat and mouse energy, where you have this this cat that's sort of like this predator. I'm kind of thinking of Tom and Jerry, and ultimately, No, that's probably not a good. Jerry's kind of his own little antagonist, and we love that about him. But in this case, in this scenario, the first attack was not really. It was not. There's nothing preemptive about it. It was just an attack, and so you have this kind of like predator prey kind of setup. And then they start fighting and battling. And yeah, I guess Tom and Jerry really is coming into mind because they just do these things back and forth toward each other and try to get even. And that's just the way it goes for some reason. Still now in the year 2025, we're doing things like this to solve our problems. But I mean, what are you going to do when somebody physically attacks you, you know? So anyway, and then add the US into the picture, and you know, you just had this morning, you had the president saying, like, cursing about, cursing to the press about no one knowing what's going on, what the F is going on. And there's just a lot of intense energy arguing about what's happening and what's right, what's wrong. I mean, really, ultimately, we all know what's right and wrong. I mean, unless you're like really deep in the propaganda, anybody by now knows. We've seen this kind of situation before. We know who's been committing atrocities in the Middle East for the past 2 years. So we don't need to like get too deep into that. I'm going to move on to what this means. So we have this like really emotional expansion, arguing. You know, arguing comes from frustration, from like not understanding something, from feeling wronged, and that things could be made right. So you're arguing because this expansion has grown. So here we are today. You might feel this in your own life, and you might feel it in other ways, but you might feel a sense of frustration. Honestly, I was thinking about this too. With the expansion of Cancer, I was thinking, you know, Jupiter expands that emotion, or it expands the shell. So it's either expanding the crab inside of the shell, like it's expanding the self, the inner self out to be felt more, the soft inner core, or the shell is expanding to cover us up and hide us from each other even more. I think that it could go either way, right? Like as emotions expand, if we don't know how to handle them, and we handle them in proper ways, or like harmful, let's say productive, or just fearful, protective ways, it can go either way. So moving on to what's happening with the new moon tomorrow, Cancer, on Cancer 4, which again we round up to 5. The symbol for that, the Sabian symbol, is a car wrecked by a train. So we go from a cat and a mouse arguing, this expansion of this energy, to a car being wrecked by the train. And when you look into it even further, it kind of symbolizes like recklessness. You're not being attentive to what's around you, or like you tried to beat the train and you just did not think about the weight of the situation, which I think we can all feel that that's what's happening, at least on a large scale right now. If this sounds familiar to you at all in your own life, if you are feeling big emotions and feel like you are ready to jump the gun, or like, beat the train, don't do it. Pull back, wait, hold off a little bit. These are huge emotions. Keep in mind that these are massive emotions, and that there's a lot happening that might be affecting you to enlarge these emotions even more. And that this is a passing transit, and like any emotion, they are passing things, and they will ebb and flow. There will still be times where you still feel that intensity, and maybe even more, but it will settle within you more at some points too, and you will be able to more easily digest them and understand how to handle it. Do not just drive out in front of the train. Okay, so that's the new moon in Cancer. It's also, with Jupiter being there, those are like the really cautionary parts of it. Jupiter is a very lucky planet. It's associated with I want to think of like Dionysus or Santa Claus, or like, just a really jovial figure who loves pleasure and fun and play, and enjoys things, wants to give and wants to indulge, all of that. So, we could be indulging in our emotions, whether that means like, really being deep in our feels and like letting ourselves be sad, or being really joyful about something and letting ourselves, even though it feels like the world is falling apart around us and there seems to be, not just seems to be, there feels to be, and it is so much injustice. We can allow ourselves to indulge in our joy, and we must, because that is part of our experience of being alive. And in order to be able to face those things, to be able to cross the train tracks without being hit by a train, we need to be able to be level-headed enough, and that means rest. And sometimes rest means joy. It means pleasure. Okay. The other aspect that's happening this week, tomorrow, with this new moon, later on in the day, as the moon moves forward, it comes into a T-square, like right after, later, I think it's like, it's like early morning, at least in the U.S., different areas, on Thursday, where the moon comes into a T-square with the nodes of fate. And those who know anything about the nodes of fate, they're like the nodes of the moon, they're like, they're considered in astrology kind of like fateful when things kind of cross their path, especially come in with tense aspects like a square, which is what is happening tomorrow. The moon is coming in with a square to the nodes. There are big changes, fateful changes that happen in our world. And this can oftentimes, you might feel it more if you have stuff in your chart. But it might also just be like a large scale world thing. You never know if you'll feel it more or less, but it's always fun to go over what they mean. So if things come up for you, we can see if there are synchronicities and how we can better think about these things. So the T-square, I was looking into the Sabian symbols of the nodes of fate with this moon T-square right after the new moon. And let's go over this. It was kind of blowing my mind. So we have the moon still in Cancer. It will be at 21 degrees of Cancer. So we round up to 22. And the symbol for 22 Cancer is a woman awaiting a sailboat. And so I want you to imagine, like, symbolically, water represents emotion. And you have a boat on, like, a sea, an ocean, some body of water. That's a lot of emotion. And she, excuse me, and you have a woman awaiting, like, for something to stay afloat on top of that, looking out toward it, right? So we're looking for something to float on, so to speak, in the big emotions that we're having, whether that be about the world or that be about our own lives or whatever. Okay, so then that's in a square, which is tension, which is action must be taken, to Pisces 22, and to, what was the other one? Virgo 22. So the North Node, which is kind of the direction we're headed in, it's our future, where we want to be going, excuse me, and where the nodes currently stand are at Pisces 21, round up 22. The symbol for that is a man or a prophet bringing down new law from Sinai, a mountain. So let's get into that in a second, because the South Node in Virgo 21, round up 22 degrees, is symbolized by a royal coat of arms. Sometimes it's said a royal coat of arms with precious stones like pressed into it. And anyway, okay, so immediately, so we're talking about new laws coming down from a mountain. So it's like either we're working really hard for these new laws, we've had to reach new heights to get to these new laws, or these new laws are hard to reach, right? Like they're out of reach. Like I'm thinking about all the things that are being passed that no one has a say in, and no one's like representatives are listening to them in this country right now. I'm like, Anyway. So either or. Maybe, we're reaching toward new law. Maybe it's both. We're reaching toward new law / also new law is being created that is hard to reach. Don't have a hand in it. There's like a prophet that's figuring it out for us, and then they're bringing it down, right? So that's interesting to me. Like collectively, we seem to have very few people involved in the lawmaking process and deciding what is best for the collective. And that seems to be a priority for those very few people. And then the South Node, we have this royal coat of arms with precious stones. So we're coming from this the thoughts are coming as I'm talking about it. So I'm just thinking about, the way that we've always grown up to understand and look at the United States as being like this untouchable, like almost royal kind of greater than anyone, the greatest country on earth or whatever, which is just so wild looking back that was something that I ever bought into, that's just not the way the world works. We work in tandem, we work together. There's no greatest. And when it comes to greatest, this is definitely we've got a lot of work to do, and the rest of the world knows it. So it's really comical almost when we say that about ourselves. We can let's try to make it a better place and let's have ambitions. But we're coming from this royal coat of arms kind of, and in America being such a place that's so very against kings, right? We had the No Kings March. That comes to mind too. We're coming from this coat of arms, No Kings March. We function in a way, and we talked about democracy in a way for so long that is so anti-king-like, but now we have had, for the past few elections now, I would say, and as somebody who's I'm pretty sure I'm not a fan of the current president at all. But here's the thing, the past several elections have been very focused on the politician themselves. And we kind of have lost touch with the values of whatever a democracy actually even is. And I can get into that later. I'll get into that later. We're not going over it right now. But we're coming from this, I heard recently that the rest of the world calls the United States a third world country with a Gucci belt, which is really interesting. Because when I think of a gilded, diamond encrusted coat of arms, it feels too gaudy. Calm down. It feels tacky, right? Which is what American politics to me feels like right now anyway. And I feel like that's kind of the way that probably the rest of the world kind of sees us too. And so maybe we're trying to come out of this we're so flashy, we're so we're the greatest, we're so shiny and beautiful and golden, and coming more into trying to come up with these new laws. And squaring all of that is this woman awaiting a sailboat. So we have this big transition that's happening in our country, not just in our country, it's happening all over the world. But we have between us and this transition, this massive sea of emotion that feels impossible to get through, impossible to get over. We're just waiting on some kind of ship or boat to take us over. And I'm also thinking right now about the ship, the Madeleine, that was supposed to provide aid to P, to the country of P, the land of P, I'm going to call it. And all the emotion that's been built up in the collective over that for the past few years, myself included. You know, dealing with our own, like trying to figure out, oh, we're trying to create these new laws and coming out of this weird, gilded, tacky era into something that actually makes sense while witnessing so very emotionally, deeply. How can you not? Some of the things that are happening around the world, and it's not just in the land of P, you know, it's also in Sudan and Congo, and there's so many places all over the world where people are going through things, but you know, and yeah, none of us are necessarily, we're not evolved to handle all of it. I do think that we do have a duty to keep up with it as much as we can emotionally, and like as much as we are capable of doing, so that when the time comes to make decisions together, we can make those decisions and be informed. But and then do what we can in the meantime, whatever that means. I digress. So now we're just gonna get into some of these synchronicities. First of all, I was writing down some of these, some thoughts that I've had recently, just today. That might be synchronicities, maybe they're not. Okay, I don't really know what labubus are. Like, I'm just learning what labubus are, and I'd never heard of them before. And they just keep popping up in my feed today. Like, people are like, what are these things? Oh, I keep seeing these things. And I saw this video today of this girl that was like, labubus are a sign of the times because no one can afford like fancy bags, so they buy labubus, which is like a status of like, it's a trend. I don't know. It's like a weird stuffed thing. If you haven't seen it before, you can Google it yourself. I don't know. But some of the thoughts that come to mind are just like, okay, this video that this girl did is like, oh, this is a sign of like the economy crashing, right? Like, we're in the sign of, this is the times. People are buying these things because they can't buy fancier things. So they have to stick with trends like this. And to me, I'm like, okay, like, and I don't want to be that girl either. I love a good trend. I love shiny, sparkly, fun things. But I just am very, like, existentially freaked out anytime there's a trend like this, or anytime I go into the store and there's just like some new like Stanley cups and stuff like that, and like people have 5 billion different kinds, and it's like, this is like, aren't we trying to again come up with the new law? Like, we need to be better to this planet. We just have to like save our public lands from our own government, from selling them off to corporations. Like, we need to take care of this planet. Like, stop buying just things just to have them. Like, don't buy into the trends. At the same time, like, I get it. We have to have our joy, and whatever that means. It's great. This girl in this video, I should probably link it or find it. I think I saved it somewhere, but she mentioned like, okay, ask yourself, would I still use this thing in 2 years? Like, still actively use it? I would say even as much as like 3 to 5 years. And if it's not something that you would still use, probably don't buy it. Don't buy into the trend. That's one of the thoughts. Don't buy into the trend. So you can think of that term not just with things. It's also coming to mind. Don't buy into the trend. Like, don't buy the propaganda. Don't buy the trend of like let's look into this a little more deeply, okay? All right. I also wrote down ceasefire, question mark, of the heart. Since it is in Cancer, I've been thinking about how in the world to trust personally. I've been emotional today. Actually, my emotions have expanded more than I was expecting them to today. I've had a week that was pretty emotional, but I feel like I haven't processed any of it, and now I'm doing more of that, and old things are coming up, and I just find myself like, how do I trust anything? Like, not just interpersonally, relationally, but also like on a world scale. Like, how do I trust the news? Like, who do I trust? I go to Aaron Parnas. I go to Al Jazeera. I just try to find different things, but it's like still hard to like understand totally like how to trust anything right now. So again, waiting for that boat to come. Something that feels trustworthy to get me over all these big feelings and the big mystery of whatever the hell is happening to the fractal of everything at this moment in time and space. Okay. On to the next thing. What was I saying? I'm like all over the place right now. I don't even know. I wrote down that tonight I want to write down a list of people I want to be, I want to absorb their powers. Like, okay, so I've spent a lot of my time in the past few years just taking in so much like tarot and astrology, and I love those things, and I think that they can be useful and really helpful introspective tools, but I think I was using them to like self-therapize, but also on a level of like kind of reinforcing what I wanted to believe, or even when it wasn't that and I was really just looking for someone to talk to, right? Like oftentimes it felt like that, like I was just looking for someone to talk to, and in a way it felt like someone was talking to me when I was watching videos like that about what I was going through. I realized recently that watching those things and consuming those things as much as I have been has not helped me to move forward and develop in any kind of way, because I'm still focused on it. Even though I'm trying to heal from it, I'm not really, because I'm still looking at it. I'm still focused on it. And I think, it's important to look at it and focus on things and our thoughts and feelings and emotions when they come up. But it is also important to put them away when we've done so much. It's not helpful to keep looking at it and over and over again. So I had this thought, replace, less helpful habits with more productive and more productive habits that are pleasurable. So habits that are good for you. And they should be pleasurable, right? So I was just thinking of like, okay, so I need to find other ways to, it was often a way for me to zen out. I need to find other ways to zen out and enjoy my time that help me grow in different ways that are pleasurable. So I have a list of different like channels or different things that I want to consume more of to absorb their powers. It's like, level up and not think as much on the past. So in a way, you can think of those new habits as a boat, right? Some pleasurable habits or things you incorporate into your schedule to be like boats on this sea of emotion. I keep going back to that one. So that's what I wrote down for everything I was thinking about. I'm going to draw a few cards. I'm just going to draw. I don't even know what this is going to mean yet. So let's just say, just anything we've been talking about. 3 cards from this archetypes deck. We have the self. No. Ooh, we have the destroyer. And we have the nectar. Ooh, I mean, if that ain't relevant, let's piece together why. I mean, we have the self. I think that we can consider the self both on the collective level and the individual level. And there's this pearl at the center of this dark figure, and maybe we're trying to get to this pearl. And in order to do that, inevitably, as the hero's journey always seems to go, is, the destroyer. It's entropy. It's where things break down or they burn up so that you can build new things. The destroyer always comes. The countries go in these cycles. They actually align very synchronistically with the planet. Pluto's orbit around the Earth every 250 years or something like that. Empires rise and they fall. There's a destroyer that comes. I like this card because you have got like this like darkness, and there's like these wolf eyes that are gazing through your soul that look kind of sinister, but then there's this like light at the center. They look like stars. There's light in it that comes out of it. And so to get to this self, we have to endure this destroyer thing. And in that, we find the nectar. something sweet, something nutritious, something from which to consume. You know, it's like we gotta eat. We gotta eat our emotions and our experience. We've just got to keep eating. I don't know, I'm just saying things. But and in that I say not like eat, like just suck it up or whatever. I mean, yeah, kind of, but also what I mean by that is to experience it fully, to eat it, to take it in and turn it into part of us. Wow, I don't know what's wrong with my throat right now. I'm gonna do 2 cards out of this alchemy deck. Let's talk more about how we can do this. Okay, I lied. I got 3 out of, wait, no, I got 4 out of this. I'm not gonna take all of them. I'm just gonna take the one that came out on top. This is rotation. So I like this card, rotating a thing. I mean, this is a web, and it's a pretty symmetrical web. And when you rotate it, it still kind of looks the same, but it is oriented differently. So we can, you know, look at a situation we have in our lives, or the world at large, and rotate our perspective on it. Be willing to change perspective and our understanding of things in the world around us. Which side is up? Who knows at this point? Maybe that's different for different people, but we do have to find a common perspective in order to come together, right? At least we have to be able to understand each other's. Okay, here's the next one. I don't know what it is. Let's see. Oil of vitriol. Okay, if I remember right, this card is really interesting. It's like, this is rage, right? Like you're kind of seeing this rage, and this green reminds me of like poison, and like, not saying that rage is necessarily poison, like obviously it can be. It's sour, but it's powerful. It like, what I'm thinking of vinegar, I'm thinking of like sour things. And when you are struck by something really intense, like a flavor or sensation that is really sharp, like vinegar, or something sour, or like you get pinched. I want to say that these are all sharper sensations, or brings the feeling, a sense of sharpness. You kind of jolt. You're jolted. It's not like a conscious decision, right? Like people make the sour face, or they react to a strong input, sensory input. And honestly, we can see that happening in the world at large also. Like if you are hit, if you are attacked physically, you're going to react, and it's not even going to be a thought. Like you're gonna defend yourself, whatever it takes to defend yourself, right? So I'm looking at this, maybe it's a matter of channeling the vitriol. When I think of the term oil of vitriol, like using something, using those things and those emotions, those sensations as a form of alchemy. There's an end goal, right? We're not just having this vitriol just to have it. If we do, like, then we have a problem. What are we doing with it is the question. So I got one more. Like I said, I was going to 2, but I'm going to do 3. Okay. Oh, I like this. We have Venus. Okay, so Venus is the planet, the goddess of love and beauty, the planet of love and beauty and money, pleasure. It's a beautiful planet. Wow, I love that. I love that you have rotation and vitriol and then Venus all together, because you have, you know, you can turn and I know it's cliche to say it, how do we get to Venus with vitriol? Honestly, Venus involves vitriol. You can't have beautiful things. You can't enjoy the pleasures and joys of the world without experiencing also the sour, hard, intense parts of it. And so it really, by rotating this vitriol and knowing how to use it, we can figure out how to reach our joy and our peace and our pleasure with Venus. I wasn't trying to make that resolve in that way, it just happened on its own. So I'm just gonna do a few cards out of this tarot deck. We're gonna expand on this Venus, like what this means for us. I don't even know exactly what to ask about this Venus. So let's see, we got the Queen of Cups reversed, the Sun reversed, and one more. Let me shuffle it one more time. Okay, here it is. And the Six of Swords. Okay, so with the Queen of Cups reversed, the Queen of Cups is like in her feels, it's in her emotions. Reversed, she's like really like in her pain or her rage or anger. You know, and kind of turned inward, deep in the feelings, kind of drowning in the feelings, right? And can be really manipulative in that way. My goodness, we do see that on the larger scale with some of the propaganda and stuff, like, oh, well, poor us in this way. We also see the sun turned upside down. I like on this card that there's a child on a horse. With the sun in the background, and the child is looking up toward the sky, but it's reversed. I know, I'm just thinking about all the innocent people that have endured pain in the world, especially children, at these hardships and oftentimes unnecessary atrocities. Also, you can think of it as like this inner child self of like, you know, this deep sadness, this pain when we're stuck and drowning in our emotions. Oftentimes it's rooted in, and it brings us back to this inner child that is still flipped upside down in ways, right? Reaching toward the sun. And, you know, in different parts of our lives and in different days and in different hours, it might be flipped up or flipped back down or whatever. We just we always have to tend to this inner child. It never really goes away, that we have to tend to and nurture and care for this inner child. And it's interesting because the Queen of Cups is really maternal, is associated with, you know, water and emotion, the moon. And this is very Cancerian. Then we have the Six of Swords here. If I'm remembering correctly, maybe I'm not, but if I'm not, then this is the synchronistic read. And you can leave in the comments what you think this is, but the Six of Swords, you can look at this card. You have what looks like a mother and a child, and I can't help but notice that they are in what looks like hijabs. I'm noticing that just now. Oh my goodness, on a boat in the water, right? Well, I can tell you right away that this reminds me of the land of P. Swords represent like, and especially like struck down in the boat like that. It's kind of like acceptance and like deep sorrow, and having gone through such hardship and tribulation, it's like moving forward on away from these tribulations and hardships and choosing to keep moving forward. and to sail across on these emotions to the next thing. You can see there's a city in the background. Yeah, that's making me emo. I'm also, feeling a lot of feels about that one. So, and this is connected to that Venus. So, back to that Venus with the rotating this vitriol. And getting to this Venus and these cards representing more of that. Like, this Venus, she seeks beauty. She seeks, balance and what is right. Venus is associated with with a woman, right? She's a goddess, Venus in mythology, and women are associated again with the moon. And so it's like really embracing our emotions and feeling deeply. I'm also noticing, I'm so sorry, excuse me. I'm also noticing on this card that this hand with the Venus card, this looks like the earth. It looks like a squished version of the earth, kind of almost yonic. So it's like the birthing of a new earth and the understanding of it through really deeply feeling and sailing across our emotions and navigating with them based on everything that's been going on. So those are just some of the synchronicities. I'm going to do a little bit more for you. Right now, I'm going to get into... I'm also noticing, I just thought back about the Shabubu trend again. Very childish. But, I'm not calling it out. I'm just saying, a plushy toy being a trend for, adults right now. It's, turning back to that inner child and embracing this, sweet, childish nature. It's even kind of, mischievous, right? The Shabubu has those, fangs. It's, cute, but it's supposed to be... I don't know, a little monster guy. And there's something symbolic to me about, this trend of a plush toy. A cute, fuzzy little plush toy being very Cancerian, very motherly, nurturing, something that you give yourself, or a mother gives a child. A mother gives their inner child to play with and to kind of, have a little, a sense of rage and the trickster and mischievousness, and also something that's soft and cuddly and still in tune, in touch with playing, being playful. So that's interesting. Okay, I just opened to a random page. This is a book, by the way, about scents. It's about smells, and I love it. It's really poetic. I'm not great at smelling things, so it's an interesting book. I'm just going to start reading from it. So I opened up a page on frankincense, and so I'm going to read a little bit from it. It seems to shimmer with smell notes like golden filaments, because you heat the incense directly on top of a glowing charcoal. Frankincense's smoke is mostly mundane and familiar until it flashes with momentary brilliance once again. This is a dense smell with opaque smoke to match sweet, a bit cloying, more ambrosial than actually edible. It's vaulting, almost unreal. The scent resembles absolutely nothing from humdrum daily life. Insistently, even floridly, the smell of heated frankincense blocks out the everyday and suggests a world of only rarity and miracles. Because I know about it only from the Bible, specifically the Magi's gifts to the baby Jesus, frankincense seems unearthly, potentially unknowable. Before I began this chapter, I wondered, what is frankincense anyway? Does it still exist? What makes frankincense on par with gold as a fitting gift to a newborn god? Lots of, again, nurturing a child, a gift to a child, and God themes in here. I have an impulse to read this specific bit. I don't know what it says. Yeah, let's see. To harvest frankincense, one makes a deep incision lengthwise into the tree's papery bark, and pale golden tears of resin leak out. The resin hardens as it dries in the desert sun, and 2 weeks later it is collected. Ancient tradition, oh wow, 2 weeks later. So like 2 weeks later, that's like a cycle from a new moon to a full moon. From cutting into the tree to being able to collect the sap. Let's see. Ancient traders loaded resin crystals into sacks and carried them from the remote desert into populated areas. Frankincense is as distantly Arabian as iconic single-humped camel. These animals got domesticated in 900 BCE, partly to haul frankincense more efficiently. Oh my goodness. Okay, so many things are coming to mind right now. I'm going to read a tiny bit more. Frankincense is synonymous with the entire category of incense. The word frankincense simply means high quality incense in Middle English. Its other name is olibanum, comes from the Hebrew libona, or milk, referring to the resin's milky white color when fresh and liquid. Okay. This is like all the symbolism with the mother and the child and, you know, baby Jesus and the Middle East and all of that. Like, it's all kind of really synchronistic, is it not? I don't know. It feels like it's really coming together. And also with this talking about this new moon in Cancer being involved in all of it. And it even, you know, describes, you know, being able to harvest frankincense. You have to make an incision into a tree. And it describes what comes out as pale golden tears, or like this golden milk, which you can only harvest after it hardens in 2 weeks' time, which is the time it takes for a new moon to transform, you know, to become a full moon, to come to the fullness of the cycle. So that's all really, really symbolic to me. And they talk about making this incision to the tree, like it's a painful process. It's like kind of forced out of you, but it is nurturing and it provides milk to these gods. And specifically this god everyone knows about from the Middle East, who is from the land of P, interestingly enough. And also the name of this milk coming from Hebrew, which is also beautiful, right? All these things coming together and creating this beautiful smell. Okay. I really had no idea. I really just flipped that open. That seemed to really just go together. So maybe this new moon, we will see kind of a culmination or a fuller point to it. Like ultimately there will be a full moon in Cancer 6 months from now. And that's supposed to be a real fullness of like this cycle, this moon cycle. But, you know, week to week, we have these cycles and it takes, and in 2 weeks we have this full moon. That might culminate in whatever is, you know, we're trying to get out of ourselves, out of our world, out of our emotion right now. I'm going to open a random page in this book called Infinity in Your Pocket, 3,000 Theorems, Facts, and Formulae. I don't know what I'm going to open up to. Let's see. Okay. It's getting dark. We have the laws of motion. Newton published his laws of motion in 1687 in a book called The Mathematical Principles of Natural Philosophy, which is generally known by the shortened version of the original Latin title, Principia Mathematica, arguably the most important work of science yet written. It continues to provide a useful framework for examining force and motion. And the first law of motion, that's what all I'm going to read, is the force. Unless a force acts upon it, a stationary object will remain at rest, and a moving object will always continue to travel in a straight line at a constant speed. Something must be done to change the state of things. in order to stop something from moving and with a certain momentum, something has to get in the way, whether that's the drag of the air or that's something really just actually getting in its way, right? So the way that things are happening right now, they will stay in motion until we do something about it. I am going to read all the laws of motion, all the laws. This feels important. Newton's second law of motion. The rate at which a stationary object moves from its position of rest, or the extent to which the moving object will deviate from its straight line path, is dependent on the mass of the object and the force that is applied to it. So everybody's path and journey is really unique, and we all need different kinds of force applied to us to either stop or go. You know, I was just thinking about changing those habits. That's one of those things, like that's what my bad or good habits, productive habits, what's pleasurable to me, or whatever inhibits me is going to be different from someone else's things. So you can think of it like that. I think the same is true for different cultures and ideologies around the world. We need to understand, again, rotate our perspective to be able to change the motion of things. It's not going to be uniform all across the board. That just doesn't make sense. And I think that's actually a really important thing to keep in mind. So then we have Newton's third law of motion. For every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. Kind of like when you attack somebody and they attack you back. Because, anyway. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty self-explanatory. Action and reaction. So yeah, keep those in mind. Something has to, in order to start something moving, you have to apply force or pressure, or to stop something, apply force or pressure. In order to, it's not going to look the same kind of force or pressure for everyone across the board. It's going to be very different for different kinds of cultures and ideologies, and down to the individual people. But ultimately, we do all share a lot of similarities. So as much as we are different, we are very much the same, part of the same pattern, ultimately. And so we can find these ways to work together and make these things happen. And to keep in mind, for every action there is a reaction. So let's think about things before we do them. Do not run out in front of the train. Or do not drive out in front of the train. I'm interested. I'm like hoping nothing more happens with this conflict and that there really is a ceasefire, at least among us for now. I mean, while that one nation still continues to attack several other nations, still doesn't make any sense with the support of the U.S., whatever. Things do not need to be escalated to this point, so hopefully we can start to see that die down, but I'm, with that Sabian symbol and these energies and synchronicities, I'm hoping that it doesn't turn into, the car and train situation. Getting hasty and getting impatient and jumping to it. And wreaking havoc, right? But anyway, those are the synchronicities for the day. I don't think anything else comes to mind. I'm going to start doing this maybe like once a week, maybe more, depending. But lastly, I want to look at the day in this book about, what does it say? Birthdays, stars, and numbers. And there's a little thing for every day, and I want to go into this new moon energy. Let's go to June 25th. Whoa, okay, randomly, I must have done this. I don't remember doing this. There's just like a bunch of pressed leaves in here. Preserving. So this is like preserving something. I don't know. I'm trying to find too much meaning. Sometimes I get annoying that way. Sometimes I annoy myself that way and I need to just cut it off. But leaves, if that means anything. I don't know from what tree or where they came from. It's not something I remember doing. But it is a pleasure to come across. On this exact day I was looking up, June 25th. Yowza. Okay. So, I'm going to just get into this. This is for the new moon. Let's see. I'm just going to read Your Secret Self. There's this excerpt called Your Secret Self. So this is in Cancer. again. Practical and enthusiastic, you can inspire others with your ideas. Emotional discontent and emotional discontent and the tendency to get bored easily, however, indicate that you need a great deal of variety in your life. This also includes being with many people and experiencing different kinds of friendships or relationships. Most friendly at times, you can be secretive about your own emotional needs and involvements. You have your own philosophy about life, and it often keeps you positive in times of difficulty. And innate common sense and direct approach help you to simplify issues and resolve problems intuitively while stating the obvious that others fail to see. When optimistic, you can think in large terms, and may be drawn to take risks. The more cautious side to your nature ensures that these are all calculated risks rather than simply a matter of acting too hastily, okay? So obviously I'm not talking about you in specific. This is just kind of the energy of the day according to the specific book. So in order to get through these times and navigate the emotions, make sure you have your pleasure and you're dealing with your friendships, and take joy in your relationships. Try not, when you can and you feel safe to do so, maybe reach out and like share what you're feeling about the world and about your situations with those you love around you. So you might see these really big problems and find it frustrating too. Like I personally do with people in my life where I'm like, how do you not see what I see, right? But again, don't act too hastily. Do what you can to feel what you need to feel. Like go and introspect, whatever that means for you. And then don't be too crazy about it. But anyway, this video is already like way too long. So I think I'm just gonna end it there. Happy new moon in Cancer, everybody. I hope that you are able to navigate your emotions and feelings in this increasingly wild world. Yeah, thanks for listening, and see you next time. Like and subscribe if you want more.